Sure. Here's a creative 1,500-word article titled, Worf is Russian? The Klingon Star Trek, TNG Earth Family Explained. Of all the characters in Star Trek, The Next Generation, none embody the concept of duality like Lieutenant Worf. A proud Klingon warrior, a loyal Starfleet officer, and, perhaps most curiously, a Russian. That last detail tends to raise eyebrows, even among longtime fans of the franchise. How exactly does one of the most iconic Klingons in Star Trek canon end up as part of a Russian family? And what does this strange bit of backstory say about Worf, the Federation, and Star Trek's broader vision of cultural integration? Let's dive into the surprising Earthbound upbringing of Worf, son of Mo, and explore how being raised by humans, specifically Russian ones, shaped one of Starfleet's most unique officers. The Battle of Khitomer, Worf's tragic origin. To understand Worf's adoption by a Russian family, we first have to look at where he came from. Worf was born in 2340 on the Klingon homeworld of Konos to Mo, a Klingon noble with a prestigious lineage. His early years were spent immersed in Klingon culture and tradition until the fateful Battle of Khitomer. In 2346, the Khitomer outpost was attacked by the Romulans, resulting in the deaths of thousands of Klingons, including Worf's parents. This devastating massacre would be a turning point not only for Klingon politics but also for one small boy who survived the carnage. Worf was discovered among the rubble by a Starfleet officer, and from there, his life took a drastic turn. Rather than being returned to Klingon space, Worf was adopted by a human couple from Earth, Sergei and Helena Rozhenko. Yes, those Rozhenkos, from the Russian colony of Galt. Meet the Rozhenkos, Star Trek's most unexpected foster parents. Sergei Rozhenko, a former enlisted Starfleet technician, and his wife Helena were living on the agricultural colony of Galt when they adopted Worf. With their biological son Nikolai already part of the family, the Rozhenkos took in the young Klingon boy and raised him as one of their own. Let's be clear, this wasn't just some random act of Federation kindness. Sergei and Helena represent one of Star Trek's deepest philosophical pillars, IDIC, or infinite diversity in infinite combinations. They didn't just take in an alien child out of pity. They raised him with love, dignity, and a commitment to helping him find his place in a universe that didn't always know what to do with a Klingon in a human household. And it worked, mostly. Worf's Russian Earth family provided him with structure, support, and affection, but they also struggled to truly understand what it meant to raise a Klingon. Russian values meet Klingon honor. What makes Worf's upbringing so fascinating is how the Rozhenkos tried to raise him both as a normal boy and as a Klingon. They didn't try to erase his heritage. On the contrary, Helena and Sergei encouraged Worf to embrace his roots, even when they didn't fully understand them. But parenting a Klingon came with more than a few challenges. As Worf entered adolescence, his strength and instincts began to emerge in dangerous ways. In a particularly tragic incident during a school soccer match, Worf accidentally killed another boy when he collided with him mid-game. The young Klingon didn't understand his own strength. The guilt from that accident haunted Worf for years and helped define his rigid sense of honor and self-control. That guilt became part of the Worf we see aboard the Enterprise D, a man with strict personal codes, often self-isolating and deeply disciplined. In many ways, Worf's sense of honor is even more intense than most Klingons. That's not a coincidence. A Klingon among humans. Imagine growing up as the only Klingon in your town, your school, possibly your entire planet. Worf was not only different, he was alien in every sense of the word. His peers were afraid of him. His teachers didn't know how to handle him. And while his adoptive parents loved him, they could never fully understand the internal war Worf waged every day between his natural instincts and the society around him. So, what did Worf do? He overcorrected. Worf became more Klingon than Klingon. He clung to the traditions of his people with a ferocity that sometimes felt more fanatical than practical. Whether it was his devotion to Kalas, his adherence to Klingon customs, or his frequent disapproval of Federation diplomacy, Worf forged an identity that felt authentic to him, but was also a reaction to a lifetime of being the only one of his kind. In Starfleet, Worf wasn't just a Klingon officer. He was the Klingon officer. His entire race's reputation, in his mind, rested on his conduct. That kind of pressure is enormous, but it also made Worf who he is. Worf is Russian? The joke that became canon. The idea that Worf has a Russian family has often been played for laughs, intentionally and otherwise. The phrase Worf is Russian became something of a meme in Trek circles. But the reality is that detail adds a strange but fascinating richness to his backstory. The Rozhenkos, complete with thick accents, hearty hospitality, and an unshakable optimism, are very much Star Trek's version of classic Russian stereotypes, but played with affection. When Helena and Sergei appear in the TNG episode Family, they embody the Federation ideal, nurturing, tolerant, and incredibly earnest. Sergei proudly shows off Worf's baby pictures. Helena insists on feeding him home-cooked meals. And Worf, uncomfortable with public affection as ever, tries not to implode from the embarrassment. And yet, there's love. Deep, enduring love. For all his Klingon pride, Worf never denies that the Rozhenkos are his family. He never renounces them. That, more than anything, shows the depth of their bond. Worf's story is proof that love isn't about biology, it's about choice and loyalty. In a very Klingon way, actually. Nikolai Rozhenko, a complicated sibling. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Nikolai, Worf's adoptive brother. Introduced in the TNG episode Homeward, Nikolai is a Federation cultural observer who violates the Prime Directive to save a dying alien culture. Unlike Worf, who is bound by rules and honor, Nikolai is impulsive and emotional. Their clash in this episode is a brilliant showcase of how different upbringings within the same family can yield wildly divergent worldviews. Yet, even through their arguments, there's a bond. They're brothers. Just weird brothers. One's a rule-following Klingon who's more Starfleet than most humans. The other's a human who thinks like a rebel. It's kind of perfect. Worf's upbringing reflects Star Trek's best ideals. Worf's Earth family story is one of the clearest expressions of Star Trek's core values: unity, tolerance, and the belief that family can transcend blood. Sergei and Helena Rozhenko didn't just adopt an alien, they raised a man who would one day become the Federation's first Klingon captain. That's no small feat. Worf is often seen as a gruff, intimidating figure, but his humanity, ironically, is what makes him compelling. He is a warrior raised by pacifists, a traditionalist forged in a liberal society, a Klingon who spent his formative years eating borscht and watching his dad tinker with warp coils in the garage. He is, impossibly, all of it. And somehow, it works. So, is Worf Russian? The answer is yes. And no. And sort of. Worf is Klingon by blood. He is a child of Konos, raised with the stories of Kallus and the traditions of honor. But he's also a Rozhenko, a son of Earth, of the Russian colony of Gulp, of parents who gave him love when the Empire could not. He drinks prune juice, quotes Klingon proverbs, and occasionally endures a guilt-laden family dinner with his well-meaning human mother. So yes, in a way, Worf is Russian. Not by birth, but by experience. And isn't that the